whole payback thing and all that stuff. I don't think in life you get anything, out of trying to get revenge or get back at somebody. The focus is to go play our best game and remember how we played in this last game and why the outcome was what it was, and nobody in that room, in that defensive room, can say that we played with the same focus and intensity last week that we had maybe in the three previous, and more importantly, the sustaining of it, I mentioned that early in the week to a couple other people that one of the biggest things that we did last week is we worked on the 6 inches. And as I tell them, I have to work on the 8 inches because my noggin's a little bit bigger. But work on the 6 inches, in between the ears, and just, hey, this is the approach. This is the attitude. This is the mindset. All those type of things. Because we come out and practice and we see certain things and we've got to correct them. And players do, and they perform, well here. Then it becomes a reaction during the course of the game. But if you don't sustain that focus and those reactions throughout, as we've seen with us on defense, then the result's not what you want. Losing a game with 3 minutes left to go, losing a game with 12, losing a game with 11, when you have a lead, that's not very good, and you're setting a precedent. We also talked about scoring. Our first and third quarters are pretty good. We've given up now, I think, a combination of about 80 points in those 2 quarters, and then when you look at the second quarter and the fourth quarter, we've given up about 190. So, it's not even, it's a glaring difference. And then when you look at that, it's the second half of the second quarter, it's the second half of the fourth quarter. It's just a matter of finishing, sustaining, being consistent, and all those type of things. So regardless of what happened last year's game, it doesn't have a bearing on this week here as far as, we're going to get revenge. And I think that's a waste of time. I think the most important thing is to learn this offense and the details of what they do, and then the details of what we do, and then be consistent at our execution.
Was what happened last year one of the more surprising things you think you've experienced in your career?
Oh, it was the worst thing I've ever been involved in my life when it comes to competition. I've never been a part of that, and I'm ashamed to say that I was a part of it, and never want to revisit that again. It's never going to go away. It's always going to be there, but it was a weird situation. It wasn't just one side of the ball. It was everybody. It was crazy. To this day, I'm not going to waste my time trying to figure it out either, but just make sure it doesn't happen and do all the right things that would not allow that to happen again.
How just from a coaching perspective, how proud of you were you to see them kind of refocus and go after it against a top 10 team on Saturday after a couple tough weeks?
Well, number one, I really felt good for the players. And it was so apropos that Michael Doctor had the interception there towards the end of the game because he's been around longer than anybody. Michael's always been a worker, right down to his academics. Sometimes it takes him a little bit longer to do things than others, but he's going to sit down and take whatever time that it takes. He's one of those guys. He's already graduated. He's done the same thing since he was a freshman. You'd finish your meeting, you'd leave. Later on, you'd go maybe set up for the next day's meeting, or maybe you had that one that night, and you'd go by the linebacker room, you look in, and there's Michael finishing up what wasn't watched maybe in an earlier meeting, and just always putting in the time, and he's never been on a list or anything like that. And then, I know the seniors are disappointed, as far as, the middle part of that season is gone, but and that's part of the deal. That's that up and down, that yin and yang during the course of the game, and this group's been affected by that, and you can't let that affect you. But with Michael making that intercept, I was just so happy for him. At the same time, looking up at the clock, there was still about a minute 18 left in the game, and everybody's patting him on the back. And I've seen guys before him was hyperventilating those situations. I went over to him, got everybody away from him, and said, "Hey, gather yourself together. We got to go back." And it was only an 8-point lead. So, but it was great to see. For the whole group, because they've done a lot of good things. Even the games that the outcome hasn't been right. There've been good, portions of those games that they've played well, and it was just good to see, a good feeling, and now it's time to that game's long gone and way over, and now it's on to the next one.
Grimble's kind of opened up about how hard it's been for him sitting on the sideline and watching these games. How excited are you and ready are you for him to potentially get back in that lineup?
Yeah, I mean, he can help us. There's no doubt about that. And how healthy he is and what percentage he's at, I'm not positive. He's been practicing with us, but it's still going to take some. I wouldn't expect him to come into the game and just be the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week. I mean, it'd be great, but I think physically for him, it's going to take a little bit of time.
Can you go back to Mike's interception for a little bit? Can you just take me behind that call and just what allowed him to find the right spot and score on that play?
Oh, it wasn't a call. I mean, whatever the situation was, we were in a zone. We was in a zone coverage. We had been playing a man for a good portion of the game, especially in those situations, just continuing to get after the quarterback. And we went with a 4-man rush, dropped back in the zone. Michael was just sitting over the ball, and between the push that the front got and then the quarterback not seeing him and sitting in that zone, it came right to him. It was a beautiful thing.
He showed some good moves on that play too.
Yeah, no, Michael was a running back.
Yeah, that's what he said.
he played some defense in high school, but he was a running back, a heck of a running back, and he was not going to be denied that end zone because he started. Now we practice sweep right and sweep left on defense. We call it our big play drill once a week, and we just take it down the near sideline. It's choreographed. Everybody, we blocked the intended receiver, we blocked the quarterback, and then Michael made a nice cut back against the grain towards the end, and again, just really, really happy for him.
What about DJ's sack that kind of sealed the victory? He just got free. Just what allowed him to be in the right spot to make that play?
Well, what was great? It's just it's a 3-man rush, and then we add DJ to it, and we just used it last week and again today when we were talking about our third down defense and detailing assignments and things like that, and it was just a movement that was executed perfectly. Dylan Wynn comes to one side of the center, grabs the center and the guard, and then pulls himself back to the opposite side. And him occupying that center allowed DJ to get inside the guard, and with his quickness was able to beat him. And the quarterback never knew what hit him really. I think he was stunned because it was fourth down. At least get rid of the ball. And when DJ was there, it looked like Kelly just froze and just didn't know where to go with the ball. So it was just a good play by those two guys on a particular stunt that is what we've been talking about, doing as a group.
When you're watching that on the sideline and you know that that's the play that ends the game, essentially, just what's going through your brain?
Well, I was just watching the releases of the receivers because again we were in man coverage and they ran a crossing route, and it's tough sledding on that. You've got to be able to work yourself through picks, and everybody did. So it was damn near a perfect play, and I say that because the guy that had contained had messed around inside again and then went back outside, but it was damn near a perfect play, and it came out with a great result.
You mentioned that in the last 4 games before the Arizona State game, defense wasn't able to finish. You mentioned the statistics between the first and third quarters, between the second and the fourth, but they did finish against Arizona State. What do you think that was? A mentality adjustment, physical adjustment? What changed?
I feel it was mentality, and a true focus on what needed to be done. When we talked about every quarter as we went along and just constant reminders, and what was more important was that it's one thing as a coach when you deliver a message, and it's another one when the message is received and then the players take it on and then become to think it's important, and then they repeat those messages to one another, and they definitely bought into it. They saw graphically, because what did that, brought it out in front of them, said, hey, this is what we've got, and then they went from there. But there was no doubt that, and that mental part of that led to the physical part of it.